Hello Envirothon students, my name is Megan Rush. I am a watershed coordinator and I work for Kansas Alliance for Wetlands and Streams. So right now I deal mostly with water quality, but as we know, everything in this world is connected from human to environment. I also got my master's degree in environmental assessment, which means that I'm trained to look at everything from water, air, soil, endangered species, and also, you probably guessed it, the waste that we create. So that's why I'm excited to be able to present this to you today, the current issue of waste to resource. This is a really big topic and there's a lot to cover, but I hope to do it justice to at least give you an overview of everything. So let's dive right in. As of 2020, there were 2.9 million people that lived in Kansas, and currently I bet we're a little bit closer to 3 million. It takes a lot of natural resources to sustain that kind of population. But as a byproduct of an increasing population, we have the responsibility of managing waste of all kinds in our environment. Individual, household, communities, that means urban and rural, businesses, agricultures, and industry. And our decisions about how to manage that waste have a direct effect not only on the environment's health, but also human health. Hopefully, while I'm talking a little background on waste, you can be thinking of ways to reduce the amount of waste in your own households that humans create, ways to be more sustainable, and how we can turn our waste into a resource to reuse. Let's start from the beginning. Things that we use in our everyday lives are part of a supply chain, or consumerism. Unless you're living 100% sustainable, which hats off to you if you are able to, but chances are that we're all part of this consumer and supply chain. Think about the clothes that you wear, the bed that you woke up in, the meals that you eat, the car that you drove, computers you use, maybe an Amazon package waiting for you, a plastic bottle that you drank out of, even down to the toilet that you flushed, and let's not lie, we all go to the bathroom. All of those consumer goods, they came from somewhere, and they were made out of a resource. Maybe overseas, maybe they were made locally, but my point is that we're all part of this manufacturing process, a shipping process, a delivery process. So what happens when we're done with those resources? Like clothes don't fit you anymore, maybe you've outgrown your bed, you finish a meal that came in a plastic wrap, your electronics don't work anymore, you flushed a toilet. All of that goes somewhere, and typically it's a landfill or a waste treatment plant. In the state of Kansas, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment is charged with regulating, permitting, and enforcing our waste. Let's start with literal waste from the human body. What we flush down our toilets goes somewhere. It's not out of sight, out of mind. The system is a little different depending where you live in Kansas, but the most common is a municipal waste treatment facility, which is in the upper photo. This is the collection and treatment of domestic sewage and wastewater from our homes to a sewer line, as shown in the picture on the bottom left. The waste and water that we use in our home then goes to a treatment facility before being discharged to surface waters, usually a river, land applied, or reused in some way. Some households are on a septic system, which is pretty common in rural areas that haven't connected to a sewer line. But the waste is either pumped out from the septic system and treated the same way, or it goes out into a lateral field and is treated by the soils before it reaches our groundwater. There are many different ways that we can treat sewage, but we'll keep it pretty simple for this slide. All right, now let's talk trash. This photo isn't very appealing, is it? But where does it go when we throw things away? To the trash bin, right? But it doesn't end there. The trash company comes, they pick it up on your trash day, and then all of that goes out to a landfill, or also known as a municipal solid waste landfill facility. Landfills are an area of land that receive our household waste and other types of non-hazardous waste. Many toxic or hazardous items are banned from landfills. Things like paint, cleaners, chemicals, motor oil, batteries, and pesticides. Other items that should never be disposed of in a landfill are electronics and home appliances. Electronics are also known as e-waste. They're the fastest growing waste stream in the world. These hazardous materials are dangerous to human and our environmental health, and they should never be disposed of in a landfill. They always go to alternative facilities. Landfills are actually a pretty interesting system. No matter how gross what comes out of them, they're still pretty interesting. The diagram on the right shows you how landfills are set up. You have layers of trash that are dumped into in order to protect the environment. Starting from the bottom, the layers are subsoil, then clay, sand, a synthetic liner, more sand, and then finally our garbage on top. With any system, there are issues, and the landfill is no exception, like the leachate in the picture on the right that runs out of them. Leachate is a liquid that forms when waste breaks down in a landfill and water filters through the waste. This liquid can be highly toxic and pollute the land, groundwater, surface water, and eventually humans. Other ways that landfills can be dangerous are the gases that they emit, specifically methane gas. Methane gas is the third largest source of human-generated greenhouse gas in the United States. This is when organic material like food scraps or green waste, which can also be called yard waste, are put into landfill. It's generally compacted down and covered, which removes any oxygen. This can also be known as an anaerobic digestion system. Eventually, methane gas is released and contributes to greenhouse gases. Landfills are also regulated by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and they must meet federal guidelines. This is also a really good place to talk about Superfund Act that was born in 1980 when Congress passed the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act. The Superfund is a United States federal government program designed to fund the cleanup of sites contaminated with hazardous substances and pollutions, which is actually a good reason that we have landfills. That way people aren't dumping their contaminated hazardous substances out into our environment. But some landfills in the United States are also considered Superfund sites. Currently, in the U.S., there are 1,344 Superfund sites, and in Kansas, there are approximately 10 ongoing. Some have been reclaimed into used land, and others are still being cleaned up, but nonetheless, we do have some in Kansas. So let's talk about the environment on a large scale and how human activity has led to a climate crisis by emitting greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. The largest source of emissions by humans is burning fossil fuel for energy in our transportation system. This emits carbon dioxide out into our atmosphere. Looking at these pictures, the second largest source of carbon dioxide emissions is deforestation. So how can we help with that? The bottom left-hand corner picture is permanent vegetation. This is one of our biggest carbon sinks, meaning that it can hold the carbon in the ground rather than in the atmosphere. It's estimated that we release 6 million to 2.6 billion tons of carbon globally every year due to deforestation. So leave those trees where they are. Leave that grass where it is. Don't leave the soil bare. Always plant something if you can. Plants can actually use that carbon that's absorbed in the soil in order to build. By far, the largest carbon sink that we have on Earth is the ocean. It absorbs roughly 25% of carbon dioxide emissions. Another way that we emit carbon into our atmosphere is through our agriculture systems. Not so much used today, and hopefully many people are going to no-till, but tilling, conventional farming, is a way that we release emissions into our atmosphere. The picture on the upper right-hand corner shows a field side by side, one that's conventionally tilled with bare soil, emitting all of the carbon into the atmosphere, and the other picture on the left showing permanent vegetation that's holding the carbon in the soil. These are things that we can do on a large scale to help sink that carbon out of our atmosphere and back into the soils. Now let's talk about human impacts on a smaller scale. What about our food waste? We may produce a lot of food here in the United States, but we also are the global leader in food waste. The United States wastes about 30 to 40% of its food supply each year, which is crazy to me considering we still have a global hunger issue. The average person wastes about 1 pound of food per year. Now, I'm not really a fan of eating the ends of cucumbers, the husks of corn, or even eggshells, but what can we do with it if we're not eating it? Just throw it away? We can make rich nutrients out of it, or better known as composting. Every household has the ability to compost on a small scale in their backyard, or even is done on a larger scale with the city. The city can pick up a compost bin and create it on a large scale. Composting is a natural process of recycling organic matter, such as yard waste or food scraps, into valuable matter that can be added into enriched soils. When thinking about items that you can compost, we need to be thinking about natural or organic items, such as the photo on the left: eggshells, fruits and vegetable scraps, herbs, things that are easily broken down in nature. If you look on the right side of the don't list, all the meats, the cooking oils, you don't want to have anything that's animal waste in there. Those things don't break down as easy in nature. Compost piles can be a really delicate system, but they're really easy to create. Once you have a good pile started, every compost needs oxygen and water. Turning your pile can help with adding oxygen in and start breaking down the organic material, as well as heating it up to an optimal 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Compost also needs a good balance of carbon and nitrogen. The ideal ratio is 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. It's easy to think of this in colors: green for your nitrogen source and brown for your carbon source. Here's an easy list to help you balance your compost pile. Not only is compost great for reducing food waste, it also helps us reserve water. Soils that are rich in compost material help retain moisture that plants need. They also help build healthy soils to help stop erosion. There are many different ways in our personal lives and on a small scale that we can help reduce the waste stream, decrease emissions, increase soil health, and conserve water. These are just a few ideas, but I strongly encourage you to look more. Cleaner green energy, solar and wind. This is a resource that's out there that we're wasting potential on. We're starting to convert to it, but it's not fast enough. We're still burning fossil fuels. Cut back on single-use items. Take a reusable bag to the grocery store, have a reusable straw, stop using plastic silverware and plastic containers. Environmental friendly cleaners. They're better for you. You're not inhaling chemicals as you clean. Buying secondhand. These are resources that have already been used and made. Why not keep using them if you can? Save water. This is a big one and probably my favorite topic. An easy way to do this at home is when you're brushing your teeth, don't leave the water on. Don't let it just run down the drain. Cut down on your shower time. Those are just a few ideas. There are so many different ways that we can make changes on a personal level to stop wasting resources in our lifetime. Our global economy has been linear, with a take, make, dispose model. Instead, I hope our generations can change that to a circular economy of make, use, and return, not only for our own benefit, but also for the environment that we depend on for life. Okay, everyone, I know that was such a big topic to cover, but I hope that I at least help you not just pass your exam for the Envirothon, but also to take a look at your current system, your household, maybe the way that you guys throw away or recycle or compost, and see how maybe you can make a difference in the world in reducing your waste. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're not sure where to get started on this topic or you want more resources, I am more than happy to help anybody go in the right direction. So best of luck to all of you and see you soon. Thanks.